1,500 years ago in Dadong, Shaanxi, a magnitude 8 earthquake suddenly struck. After the mountains crumbled and the earth tore apart, a giant Buddha, originally hidden within a mountain grotto, was completely exposed for all the world to see. But that wasn't all. Surrounding it were over 59,000 other statues, densely packed together, forming a hall of Buddhas that stretched for a full kilometer. It was so breathtaking, so exquisite. Some say it is the pinnacle of Chinese Buddhist art. This is the Yungang Grottos. But what sets these grottos apart from others is that they were created by a dynasty largely unknown to the public, yet one that had an incredibly profound impact on the course of Chinese history. It was an age of chaos, an era where more than half the country's population died violent deaths, a time of relentless, brutal slaughter. So why did such a stunning flower of art blossom from this turmoil? Today, in the Planet Research Institute's 10,000-Year Epic of Civilization series, we will uncover this secret. We will dissect this rare flower born of chaos. This is a standing Buddha, 15.5 meters tall. Its towering height is awe-inspiring. What's most remarkable is the special kasaya, or robe, the artisans draped over it. Let's get a closer look. Do you see them, all of these small Buddha figures? There are over 1,000 of them, known as the 1,000 Buddha Kasaya, and it is the only one of its kind in the entire history of global stone carving. Putting aside the sheer difficulty of such intricate carving, some scholars speculate that this design holds a deeper meaning. This robe is believed to symbolize an act of atonement because the great Buddha it adorns represents the very emperor who initiated the first great persecution of Buddhism in Chinese history. During the Wei, Zhen, and Northern and Southern dynasties, nomadic peoples from the north continuously pushed south, establishing various regimes. This included the will of the Xianbai people. The Xianbai unified northern China with their formidable military strength, establishing the Northern Wei dynasty and making Pingcheng their capital. However, under their military subjugation, rebellions constantly broke out and the land was ravaged by war. The emperors attempted to use Buddhism to pacify the people, but it seemed the monks were not so easily tamed. They hid weapons and colluded with rebel forces. This led to the great anti-Buddhist persecution. Imperial power and Buddhism. The two were testing each other, struggling to coexist amidst mistrust. They needed a new generation with a broader vision to make a choice in these chaotic times. It was then that a monk appeared, Tan Yao, a monk far less famous than Faxian, Zhuangzong, and Jian Zhen. But his story also deserves to be more widely known. He was likely born in the area of modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan. He had traveled to preach in the western regions, Gansu, and other areas before being captured by the Northern Wei army and taken to Dadong. He narrowly survived the catastrophe of the Buddhist persecution. One could say he spent half his life as a wandering refugee. But life's darkest moments are often also moments of awakening. After the new emperor ascended the throne, Tan Yao made a bold decision. He proposed to the emperor that they use the mountain rock as a foundation and carve great Buddhas in the likeness of the first 5 emperors of the Northern Wei. This would make worshipping the Buddha equivalent to honoring the emperor, allowing Buddhist law and imperial rule to coexist. The emperor was moved by this unprecedented and brilliantly imaginative strategy. And so a super project, harnessing the full power of the dynasty, was set in motion. Beside a major thoroughfare west of Dadong, countless artisans gathered. Over several years, they hollowed out an entire mountain, forming 5 grottos with ceilings shaped like the yurts of the grasslands. Just as a Xianbai folk song goes, the sky is a yurt covering the Great Plains. 5 great Buddhas, each over 10 meters tall, and numerous attendant statues were erected within. This open-air Great Buddha and Asmodel It's very different from the many Buddha statues of the Central Plains that we usually see. It has a high nose and deep-set eyes, like a Greek sculpture, and even sports a mustache. This is actually because the Greek emperor, Alexander the Great, once led a campaign east into ancient India, merging Greek artistic techniques with the art of Buddhist statuary. This resulted in a style that blended ancient Greek and ancient Indian artistic traditions and was brought into China by generations of monks. And just like that, Tanya used the power of the emperor to realize his faith. But in those turbulent times, he was far from the only one. Many of the craftsmen who carved the Yungang grottos were just like Tanya, captured from various regions by the Northern Wei dynasty. As prisoners of war and displaced people, they could have been killed at any moment in the chaos. The carving of the Yungang grottos gave them a basic sanctuary for survival, and every one of these ordinary people struggling to stay alive also had their own hopes. On the Kusaya of the Thousand Buddhas, there is a detail hidden in plain sight. On the left hand of the statue, which stands over 10 meters tall, a finger just happens to conceal a tiny figure. A humble believer prostrates at the Buddha's feet, receiving his enlightenment. This was the secret personal prayer of a Northern Wei craftsman, born into this age of turmoil. I pray the Buddha also protects a nameless nobody like me. So then, could the rulers in such a chaotic era remain untouched by it all? Not at all. The struggle for power would drag them into another vortex. This is Cave 7 of Yungang. This is Cave 8 of Yungang. Caves 7 and 8 are not only interconnected, but they also have a symmetrical layout. Even the Buddha statues inside the caves are arranged symmetrically. This is a special structure in the Yungang grottos known as the Twin Caves. Besides that, here in Yungang, you'll also see a unique arrangement of statues, two Buddhas sitting face to face, two Buddhas sitting face to face, reaching a total of 385 locations. This was, in fact, a reaction to the politics of the Northern Wei court, an era ruled by an emperor and an empress dowager. And this story must begin with the Northern Wei's cruel policy of kill the mother when the son is named heir, to prevent the future emperor's mother from interfering in state affairs. The Northern Wei adopted a certain method. When a son was appointed as the crown prince, his birth mother was immediately executed. In the year 469, the 2-year-old Emperor Shaowen was named crown prince. Empress Dowager Feng, who had no blood relation to him, used the kill the mother policy to have his birth mother executed. She then took him in to raise him personally. An unexpected consequence was about to emerge. This is Grotto 16, which is currently undergoing maintenance. Thanks to this scaffolding, we're able to see a secret. There are several rows of small Buddhist niches here. Below the niches, the hems of a few skirts are exposed. Over here, a few pairs of high boots are visible. It's obvious that the parts of the figures above the feet have been chiseled away. They represent the patrons who commissioned the grottos. Usually, this would be the emperor or his trusted confidants, who would be so audacious as to destroy these statues. It's very likely that a court coup lies behind this. In the year 476, Emperor Shaowen's father died suddenly. His close confidants were also eliminated. Historical records, quoting another source, state the Empress Dowager was behind it. And just like that, all power was consolidated in the hands of Empress Dowager Feng. Under Empress Dowager Feng's leadership, the Northern Wei carried out a series of reforms, including appointing a large number of Han Chinese officials, encouraging agriculture, and distributing land based on population, among other things. The Northern Wei at this time had moved beyond its early period of brutal conquest and entered its golden age. The Buddha statues carved during the Take era are not the largest in Yungang. This seated Buddha before me stands 17 meters tall, the largest in Yungang. More than 10 people can stand on just one of its feet. The Buddha statues carved during the Take era are not the largest in Yungang. This seated Buddha before me stands 17 meters tall, the largest in Yungang. More than 10 people can stand on just one of its feet. Further on, this cave is known for its enormous area. It could hold over 1,000 people worshipping at the same time. At this time, the Yungang grottos entered a completely new phase of carving. Not only was the scale grander, the details also became more exquisite. This particular cave uses 35 panels to show the Buddha's life from his birth to his enlightenment. It's arguably China's earliest stone-carved serial narrative. And another cave is known as the Music Cave, a vast symphony orchestra, carrying instruments from the various ethnic groups of the North and Central Asia. All vie to play their music as they dance gracefully. The craftsman's supreme skill and imagination surged forth upon the stone. Here, foreign lands converged. Here, the world found great harmony. In the year 490, Empress Dowager Feng passed away from illness, caught between Empress Dowager Feng's grace in raising him and the hatred for her having murdered his kin. Emperor Shaowen, who had spent over 10 years walking on thin ice, could finally breathe a long sigh of relief. 4 years later, he led his court and moved the capital to Luoyang. Perhaps leaving Daidong was also one of his ways of escaping the nightmare. But for the Yungang grottos, this meant that just as their construction reached its peak, their decline followed almost immediately. On the western cliffs of Yungang, there are many small and medium-sized grottos that are drastically different from the magnificent ones of the earlier period. After the Northern Wei moved its capital, Yungang transformed from an imperial project into a place of worship and prayer for lower-ranking officials and the common people. A prime example is a narrative scene like this one. A vicious eagle swoops down on a young boy, while the Buddha places a hand on the boy's head, helping to dispel his fear. This was commissioned by a father to pray for the soul of his deceased son. The stone carving allows us to witness this father's love reaching across 1,000 years. In these caves, the form and dress of the Buddha also began to take on Eastern characteristics. But this was also one of the last echoes of the Northern Way. Just 30 years after the capital was moved, strong enemies invaded from the north. Yungang began its final decline. About 10 years later, in the year 534 AD, the Northern Wei dynasty fell. Afterward, the Liuanjin dynasties made repairs and additions. During the Ming dynasty, a new military fort was built on the Yungang mountain. Time flashed by like a fleeting light. Not many people were left to recall the events of 1,500 years ago. Yungang has over 50,000 statues. Which one is the most beautiful? Many people believe it's a Buddha statue hidden in a corner. The nearby buildings obscure it, but this creates a marvelous play of light and shadow, which further accentuates its faint smile. What is it smiling about? Perhaps it's for the peace that this world longs for? No chaos, no slaughter, no suffering. Even if only for a moment. The Yungang grottos have witnessed it all. They are the magnificent blossoms that bloomed after the baptism of a chaotic era. The years are silent, only the stones can speak. Alright, that's all for this episode of a 10,000-year epic of civilization. If you enjoy it, please feel free to like, subscribe, and follow us. Also, our new book on the same theme, the third volume in the This is China series, will also be officially released this summer. Let's continue to explore all of China together and witness the great creations of Chinese civilization. Bye-bye.